You're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the best in paranormal talk radio in the UK and around the world.
From haunted houses to cursed artifacts, from whispers in the dark to battles you'll never read in scripture. This is the Unholy Podcast, hosted by Doug Owen, author, investigator, and survivor of one of the most harrowing real-life hauntings ever documented. Each week, Doug pulls back the veil between this world and the next, sharing stories that aren't fiction, because he lived them. Prepare yourself. The silence is over.
So, picture this. It's dark. It's a stormy night. Rain is hitting the windows, not gently, but steady, almost deliberate, the kind of rain that fills the silence, but doesn't quite cover it. We had just moved into this house, a house provided to us and helped us out by the Catholic Church. And when I say provided, I don't mean given. We paid rent. It was an option to buy. It was a fresh start. Or at least that's what we thought. Moving boxes still stacked, still full, half opened, like we hadn't decided if we were going to stay or not. The dining room table was the one and only thing that was set up in the room. A few chairs. Nothing on the walls. No life in the place yet. We ordered Chinese food that night, sat there, trying to settle in. Trying to convince ourselves this was home. What we didn't know, what we couldn't have known, was that everything that would happen, everything that would define the next year of our lives, was already with us, watching, waiting. Now, most of what happened in that house didn't happen all at once. It wasn't constant chaos. It wasn't Hollywood. It wasn't doors slamming every 5 seconds or things flying across the room nonstop, because it was real. And it came in waves. About 50-50 split, I'd say. Daytime, nighttime. And that's something that people always don't understand. It wasn't just something that crept in the dark. This wasn't imagination playing tricks. This happened. And yes, we were tired, but we were fully awake. Daylight, fully aware. And it happened at night, when we were at our most vulnerable, or trying to be, asleep. Whatever this was, tried different things. That experience in that house is what set me on the path seeking the truth. It's what led to the unholy silence. Because when you go through something like that, you don't just walk away. You don't just say, yeah, that was weird. Man, move on with your life. No. You start asking questions, hard questions, and questions that don't always have answers. That's where paranormal investigation comes in. But let me say something right now. Paranormal investigation is not what people think it is. It's not jump scares. It's not ghosts rising from the floor and grabbing your ankles every time you step into a room. It's not constant chaos. Now, sometimes, yes, sometimes you walk into a location and it's active. Sometimes it's infested with something that doesn't belong here. Something that is aware. Something not friendly. Something that is, in many cases, malevolent. And we don't fully understand what those things are. Not completely. We have theories. We have beliefs. We have religious interpretations, scientific attempts, psychological explanations, but none of them fully explain everything. And that, my friends, that is why we investigate. Because here's the truth. Most investigations, you get nothing. Nothing happens. No voices, no movement, no shadows, no evidence, just silence. And that's important. Because if you're doing this right, you're not chasing or hunting ghosts. You're chasing the truth. And sometimes the truth is, there's nothing there. We do not fabricate. We do not doctor evidence. We do not sensationalize, because the moment you do that, you lose credibility. And you become Hollywood. And credibility is everything. I'll give you an example. Recently, I shared a video on the Unholy Podcast, my garage door opening, closing on its own. No one else home. The latch clicking. The knob jiggling each time. And then it stopped and opened again. Just a crack. Like something was peeking, like a game a child would play of hide and seek. And I'm sitting there, watching it, trying to process it, trying to find a logical explanation. Now, I'm trying to find the wind, or air pressure, or the furnace, or the fan. But that's what we do. We don't jump straight to, oh, it's paranormal. We look for everything else first. Mechanical failure, air pressure, faulty wiring, human error, anything. But sometimes there is no explanation. And I want to be very clear about something. I have never found a rational explanation for the events I experienced. This wouldn't be a paranormal memoir that I had written. This would be a, hey, look how I got fooled. But that's not what this is. It's not a comedy. Through years of investigation, study, experience, I still cannot explain what happened, what I experienced, what I witnessed, what I lived through. Would be classified, I would have to say, by science as impossible. And that brings us to something important. Technology. We rely on it, we use it, we trust it. I'm using it now. Thermal cameras, EMF meters, audio recorders, motion sensors, all of it. But technology doesn't always catch everything. It can't. Not yet. Maybe someday. But right now, there are things happening that our equipment simply cannot register. But you know what does? Your mind. Your instincts. That feeling when you walk into a room and something feels off. You don't know why. You can't explain it, but you feel it. That's not random. That's not imagination. That's something deep within us. Something built over thousands, millions of years. Survival instinct, awareness. Call it intuition, call it extraordinary perception, call it whatever you'd like, but it's real. Now, your brain can process information faster than most of the tools we carry, and more efficiently. It picks up on patterns, energy, changes in environment, things you cannot consciously identify, but you feel it. And here's the key. Before your brain accepts anything paranormal, it tries to explain it. It looks for logic first, always, because that is how we're wired. And when your brain cannot process, what happens? That's when you start to realize, hey, maybe this isn't normal. And that's why conversations like the one you're about to hear matter. Because every investigator, every experiencer, every person who came face to face with something they can't explain brings a new and different perspective. A different piece of the puzzle, if you will. Now, Olivia Yocum, she brings her own perspective, her own experiences. And when you listen, I want you to keep something in mind. I want you to listen for, not entertainment, of course, be entertained, but I want you not to listen just to listen, but I want you to listen to understand and reflect, because the truth is, we are all still learning. We're all still trying to figure this out. What exists beyond our understanding? Just maybe the answers that we're looking for aren't out there somewhere. Maybe they're already here, watching, waiting, just beyond what we can see, just beyond what we can feel. This is the Unholy Podcast. So let's step back into the conversation with paranormal investigator Olivia Yocum. All right, welcome back to the Unholy Podcast. I'm Doug Owen, author of The Unholy Silence and Paranormal Investigator. And as always, I'm your host. Tonight, we have a very special guest, one I've been looking forward to. So, we're living in a time where the paranormal isn't just investigated. In abandoned buildings, it's broadcast live. It's streamed, it's clipped, and it's shared with millions. But when the lights go off, when the cameras stop, what's real? Joining me tonight is paranormal investigator and TikTok personality Olivia Yocum. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Olivia, before the followers, before the views, before the viral moments, who are you?
So, my name is Olivia Yocum. I am a 20-year-old paranormal investigator from Columbus, Ohio. And I've been doing the paranormal or in the paranormal field for about 2 or 3 years now. Outside of the paranormal, I do photography full time, and the one nice thing is I'm able to dabble what I do together.
Nice. So let's talk about the first time the paranormal became real for you.
Like as in my first experience?
Yeah, that moment when you realize something isn't just imagination, and something that's powerful, something that maybe changed you.
So my first ever, it kind of goes hand in hand as with like my first 2 investigations actually. So my first ever paranormal experiences, I went to the Fairfield County Infirmary. They were hosting flashlight tours, and I went with my uncle, and we had a couple things happen, but the tour guide that was there that night, his name is Brevin Herring. He ended up becoming one of my best friends, and we would do a podcast together. But we really hit it off, and he invited me. He's like, hey, Fairfield is a great place, you know. It's active some nights, it's not so active the other nights, but he's like, I have some buddies that are going to the Madison Seminary in Madison, Ohio in 2 weeks. You know, we're renting a van. You want to come with me? Quite literally was like, hey, I have a van and some strangers. Do you want to come ghost hunt at the Madison Seminary? I said, sure, why not? The Madison Seminary was where I had my first experiences, and growing up, I watched a lot of paranormal TV shows, and that's kind of when the paranormal started to get plastered on YouTube and things like that. And so it's one thing to, be so fascinated and watch it and be curious, and then it's another thing to experience it for yourself. And the Madison Seminary, I tell people, is truly a location of its own. It's consistently active. The activity just changes from time to time. But my first ever experiences and full night of investigating, I saw at least 2 full body apparitions and figures. I heard footsteps when nobody was there, device activity, and then there's a room up on the 4th floor in the asylum area, and it's called the emotion of the mind warp room. And at the time I didn't know that, because I tried to go into locations as blind as I possibly can, and I didn't know what that room was or what it was known for, and I ended up losing track of time for an hour or 2, and I was in a really negative room. I was snapping at the people that I just met, that I just became friends with. I was affected in many ways. I had many experiences all in one night, and when I left there, it was kind of like a, whoa. It's one thing to watch this, and then it's a whole nother ballpark to experience it, but it's almost like an adrenaline kick too. It's like once you get that bit of activity and you can't debunk it and you deem it as activity, it's like, oh my god, I want more. I want to keep on doing this. What more can I get? But that night really hit it off for me, and that's when it was like, this is real. I love this. I'm scared to death, but I love this.
Nice. So when did you know this wasn't just curiosity, that this was a calling for you? When was that?
So that first investigation that I did with Brabin and my friends at Madison was, I believe, summer of 23. And after that, one of the friends that day too, Caleb McDowell, him and I and Brabin would go on a couple investigations here and there, as well as some buddies from a paranormal group called Your Paranormal. And we went to Auglaize Village in Defiance, Ohio, and the Monroe House in Indiana, and a couple other places, but it was very few and far between. In between these, it was maybe one investigation every other month. And like I said, once you get that little bit, that little taste of, investigating, it's like, oh my god, I want more. And I really wanted to keep on doing it. And at the time, I was actually I just graduated high school. I had no clue exactly what I wanted to do with my life. The college that I was supposed to go to didn't work out, so I was on a gap semester. I was in a not great relationship where wanting to do the paranormal stuff was very frowned upon by that person, and I felt held back in a lot of ways, and I felt like, other than the friends that I just met that I do this with, I don't have anyone supporting me. And I was trying to figure out my life and figure out my passions, which photography was the one that I'm like, absolutely. But I'm like, I really love ghost hunting and I love content creation, and I can do both of those and mix them. And I got out of that relationship, and there was a convention hosted by Adam Kimmel. He hosts conventions at his properties and the property that he helps at. And it was called ISS Con. It's a convention out at the Indiana State Sanatorium. And I wasn't going to go to that to please the people in my life at the time. And so when that ended, it ended actually 2 days before that convention. And I don't know what hit, but instead of, being all sad and mopey and whatever, I'm like, I could go to Indiana. I don't have anyone holding me back. I'm not going to upset anyone. I might as well do it. So I drove myself 4 hours out there, all by myself. I knew 1 or 2 people there. That was it, that I mutually knew on Facebook. And being surrounded by 100, 200, just so many people that love this and have experiences and have connections, and just meeting so many people that are into this, I was like, it was so inspiring to see how many people do this and how easy it is and how welcoming the community is. And I'm like, I'm gonna build connections. This is what I want to do. I'm gonna do it. And that moment, that day specifically, is like the day that everything clicked. And I'm like, this is what I love. I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone. You know, I felt truly alone, but I just met new people. But I'm like, I need some independence, and I'm going to start pushing myself out there. So I started, you know, traveling to cemeteries by myself, or reaching out to people that I just met, like, hey, do you want to ghost hunt? I started the podcast with Rabbit and Caleb, and like from that day forward, I'm like, I want to do this. We're going to do this. And I'm so much further than I ever thought I would be with this. And I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Nice. That's incredible. That's so inspiring to a lot of people, including people who want to become paranormal investigators, to hear the way you did this. So
Thank you so much. And that's what I tell people is I have a lot of people, one of like the most frequently commented things on my videos, especially on TikTok, is I always wanted to do this. I wish I could do that. And in my mind, I'm just like, you can. It's so easy to, you know, there's so many Facebook groups on social media, so many groups that are so welcoming. There's so many, you know, I mean, there's a good amount of affordable locations. A lot of places open public events. And I'm like, you just need that little nudge. Step outside of your comfort zone, open yourself up to whatever activity you may experience, and just do it.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a little break, and we'll be right back with Olivia Yocum.
Friday nights, the darkness takes over. For 2 full hours, step beyond the ordinary with the Unholy Podcast, hosted by author and paranormal investigator Doug Owen, featuring real encounters, investigations, and first-hand accounts from the edge of reality. Then, stay tuned, because the night goes deeper with the Unholy Broadcast, coming to you live, where anything can happen, from podcast to broadcast, every Friday night starting at 9 p.m. Central, exclusively on Unexplained Radio. Listen now at unexplainedradio.com, the Unholy Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. We're talking with Olivia Yocum, paranormal investigator and TikTok personality. So, Olivia, let's talk about something not everyone understands. There's being an investigator, and then there's being a public figure. How do you balance credibility with content creation?
So for me, obviously there's the, you know, the funny videos here and there with the funny like ghost hunting audios, or, you know, me and my friends being silly at these places. But a lot of majority of the content that I put out is showcasing the places that I go, sharing the history, sharing my experiences, sharing the evidence that I got. And not everyone is going to believe the evidence that you got. I try to, you know, make it known, like as to how I've debunked it, that it's been debunked, things like that. There's always going to be skeptics, especially in a field like this. But a lot of the content that I push out is mainly trying to showcase the places that I go. Every now and then there's the funny video. I think, you know, as long as you're being respectful, especially if you're, you know, filming content inside of a place, as long as you're being respectful. As far as the credibility goes, I mean, the people that have investigated with me know that we got the evidence that we did. I know that I got the evidence that I did. I want people to see the evidence and obviously, you know, believe me and believe that it's credible. But at the end of the day, whether or not they're skeptics, I know what I got.
Nice. Do you ever feel pressure to make things bigger than what they are for views or your viewers?
Not really, because I think that there's a fine difference between when you put the paranormal content out on social media. I think there's a fine difference between doing it, you know, for the views and doing it to, and this isn't me slandering anybody or anything, but I think there's a fine difference between, you know, doing it for the views as opposed to just sharing the locations and the history and what you got. Nothing that I put out is ever, oh my God, I'm filming this specifically so it goes viral, and
Right.
I'm going to, oh, I got this EVP, but I'm going to, say that this is automatically a demon and things like that. And I'm not slandering the people that do that. That's not my intention. I'm very grateful for the growth that I have. I love gaining the growth because it allows for more opportunities like this and more connections and things like that. But my biggest thing is I love growing so that I can share the evidence that I got with people, so that I can share, especially because a lot of the places that I go are, I drive around to different cities and I hope for the best, and I see what historical places I can find, and more times than not they have a haunted story to them and things like that. So they're not well-known locations, majority of them. Obviously I do go to bigger locations, but I just love sharing that stuff with people, and I think that there's a fine difference between for the views and just to share. And I mean, every now and then, I'll put like the very creepy, like Tiptoe Through the Tulips audio on it to amp up the effect of it.
Sure,
and
sure.
Make it a little more dramatic, but it's never like, here's this piece of evidence, it was a demon or anything like that. To like, I try to give it as I get it,
Absolutely. I think that's something that people don't talk about enough. So what's the biggest misconception that people have about paranormal creators on TikTok? What do you think that is?
I think a lot of them look and assume that, I mean, this kind of ties into my answer for the last thing. I feel like a lot of people assume that if it's a piece of evidence, as far as like, showcasing the buildings and the evidence, or like the history goes, I feel like that's one thing. Primarily evidence, I feel like, people look at it and think that, oh my God, it's just for the views. Or, they're making this so much more dramatic and things like that. And that's not always the case. Unfortunately, there are, and I mean, I'm not bashing anybody that does it.
Sure.
But there are people that automatically, associate demon, or that will have their friends like slam the door and things like that, which I think it's okay if you say that it's for entertainment purposes,
sure,
and that you're not labeling it as real evidence, because that may help them grow and get their viral video. I feel like it hurts those that spend 10 hours investigating all night at a location, and they get this like one solid piece of evidence that they got all night, and they share it, and then everybody's like, this is probably fake like everybody else on social media and things like that.
Right, exactly, I agree. So now let's go deeper. What is the most terrifying thing you've personally experienced during an investigation?
Oh goodness. Am I allowed to give more than one?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. The shadow figures are terrifying. I'll start with that. Shadow figures and apparitions are absolutely terrifying because you sit there for a minute and you're like, is it my mind playing tricks on me? Did I see what I see? When I saw the ones at the Madison Seminary, my first ever night of experiences, there was one, and I was sitting with my friend Bravin's brother Camden, and we watched a figure. We heard footsteps come up to the door of that mind warp room that we're sitting in, and the door is open to the hall, and nobody's there. And then a couple seconds later, we see what looks like a head peek around, and then long fingertips curl around the door, and then walk away. And I'm sitting there like, did I see that? And I look over, and Camden's like, and I, like, his jaw is on the floor, and I'm like, did you see? He's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, okay. So we both saw it. That has to, add to it. But I think the most terrifying one that I've ever seen is at Post-Town Elementary in Middleton, Ohio. I was there, my friends Dylan and Steve from Haunted Nights do events where people can come investigate with them or investigate the buildings that they host at. And I was there for one of their events, and I watched a there's like 2 doll rooms, and I think it's like a t-shirt room or something, but they all have doorways, like large openings connecting them, and I watched a shadow figure walk from one end to the other, but from the lights in there were off, but you could see lights coming in through the hallway underneath the doors. And this shadow figure is about like 6 feet tall, had a shadow of its own on the ground, which made me think that it was a real person.
Sure.
And there was nobody there. And so, you know, I'm like, oh my god, I don't know what I saw. Am I crazy? Am I not crazy? But it had a shadow of its own. So I'm like, But, like I said, I went into Post Town blind. I didn't know any of the history until I was there that day. And so the guide texted me after because I ended up getting her phone number. She's like, hey, how was the event? And I said, oh, well, I saw this like 6-foot figure with a shadow of its own on the ground. And she's like, oh yeah, people see that all the time. And I'm like, excuse me? Okay, well, and that's just 2 of many. Figures and apparitions are terrifying. But I also had, well, what's equally as terrifying is having something touch you. And it's one thing to have like the, like, you know, something grazed my back, something poked me. I have been scratched with visible welts and puffed up like redness and scratches at the Madison Seminary that I actually have photos of that I'd be more than happy to share. But I've been scratched, and then at the Monroe House in Hartford City, Indiana, I was sitting out alone in the hallway doing Estes while Brevin and Caleb were in the room across from me, and I felt something walk up to me, and then I had something grab from my knee all the way up into my inner thigh, grab my leg, slide the hand up, and then immediately grab by my shoulder and slide all the way down my arm. And when I do Estes, more times than not, I'm blindfolded, and I have the headphones on, so all my senses are really deprived. And so I ripped off my headphones and my blindfold, expecting to see, like, Brevin and Caleb, they're messing with me. And I'm like, I have never had something touch me the way that, like, I was touched there. And I don't know how to explain it, but it was enough to freak me out, because I'm like, it's one thing to be poked, even scratched, but just the feeling of like something is like all over me, touching me, and there's nobody there. The closest people to me are 15 feet away, and I was like laughing and crying hysterically. It's on video. It's hilarious to look back at now, but I'm also like, it's kind of traumatizing.
Sure, so this is where you thought, wow, this is different. This is not a residual
it's like
haunting. It's intelligent. It's interacting with me. It's grabbing me.
Yeah, it's like, it's one thing to have the devices go off, the equipment go off, to even see something, but it's, like, I want to say it's kind of invasive, and it's more terrifying when it's, like, physically touching you, or, you know, if it's scratching you, technically, like, it's harming you. It's cool. I say invasive, but then I'm over here like, it's invasive, but it's cool, and I don't know how to, like, explain, but, I mean, I'm sure you can get it.
Absolutely.
'Cause it's like, I don't know how to explain this, and, like, I physically felt this, like, this happened, there's no one by me, there's nothing, no other way to explain it, other than a spirit of some sort. But when you get something like that happen for the first time, it's terrifying, and, like, I did not want to go back under. I needed to take, like, a good 30 minutes before we even did any kind of investigation again that night.
Sure. Have you ever felt, when you left a location, did you ever feel like something maybe attached itself to you or followed you?
I wouldn't say personally that I have felt an attachment or anything follow me. I've had a weird correlation when me, Brevin, and Caleb were consistently investigating together, because, you know, there's 3 of us and I'm the only female. And females are more like nurturing, especially towards other women. And I always tend to do the Estes method, and I have had multiple locations back to back to back to back with them, where whoever or whatever I'm communicating with through Estes is brought up, like, she knows us, we want her, we'll say my name, just kind of things that are like her. And so I always kind of wonder, like, Is something following me that wants me? Or is it the women's spirits that are at these locations are more, inclined to talk to me and want to speak to me? Or there's locations that they hate women, or the men are all over the women. And so it's kind of like, why is this happening? But I don't think I've ever had anything that I can say I've fully felt like has followed me, but that one instance has made me question, is something going to the locations with me that wants me?
Got it. So we're going to take another quick break here, and when we return, we'll be back with Olivia Yocum. Stay tuned.
Across the Atlantic, where history runs deep, the shadows speak louder. Welcome to Paranormal UK Radio, the largest paranormal radio network in Europe, and a global destination for the unexplained. From ancient hauntings and restless spirits to UFO encounters, cryptids, and unsolved mysteries. This is where the world's strangest stories are told, featuring an international lineup of hosts, including the Unholy Podcast, delivering raw, chilling encounters from the edge of reality. Tune in now at paranormalukradio.com. Paranormal UK Radio, where legends live, and the unknown is always listening. The experiences discussed on the Unholy Podcast are not fiction. They are drawn from lived events. Doug's first-hand account of a sustained haunting, as documented in the book, The Unholy Silence. The book details the investigation, the psychological toll, and the impact on his family, offering a deeper look at what happens when paranormal events move beyond theory and into daily life. The Unholy Silence is available worldwide through Amazon in paperback, hardback, and ebook formats. For those who want the full account, the story begins there.
In a world where mystery captivates and fear fuels fascination, standing out isn't just an option, it's everything. That's where Methodical Management comes in. We are a premier management and PR company specializing in the paranormal, psychic services, and horror industries, connecting exceptional talent with the opportunities they deserve. From investigators and mediums to creators, authors, and on-screen personalities, we elevate your presence, amplify your voice, and position you where it matters most. Strategic branding, targeted exposure, meaningful engagement. Because in industries built on intrigue, credibility is power, whether you're building a name or expanding your legacy. Methodical Management ensures you're seen, heard, and remembered. Methodical Management, where talent meets opportunity and the extraordinary becomes undeniable. Methodical.com. That's METHODICKAL.com.
Is your business truly protected, or is it haunted by what you don't know? I'm Dawn Adams. With over 30 years of experience, I've seen it all. When I review a policy, I find that 75% of businesses have scary coverage gaps. Don't let those unexplained coverage gaps send your business to the graveyard. Cutting corners now could cost you everything later. Serving Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, call me direct at 208-955-6370. That's 208-955-6370. Or find me on Facebook at Dawn M. Adams, Farmers Insurance Agent.
First, there was Amityville. Then there was The Conjuring. Now comes The Unholy Silence. This book by Doug Owen is 5-star rated. The reviews are in. Find out why critics call this a must-read for fans of real-life hauntings. Order your copy of Doug Owen's The Unholy Silence today on audiobook, paperback, hardback, and ebook, and Kindle, wherever books are sold.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're speaking with Olivia Yocum, paranormal investigator, and TikTok personality. So, Olivia, skeptics are everywhere, especially online. How do you handle criticism? And I know you've got it, because we've all got it, we all get it, we have trolls. You know, I block tons of people every day, ignore their emails. So how do you handle criticism when it comes up?
It really depends on the aspect or the kind of criticism. If it is as to credibility of evidence, I try to explain, you know, how I debunked it, or, you know, if it's a video clip, showcase all the different angles that I have and really try to put into perspective, like, this is what was happening when this piece of evidence happened. Nothing could have, you know, done this or caused it. And I try to do that to the best of my ability, and if they don't believe it, at the end of the day, I know what really happened. The haters, unfortunately, will come with everything, and the paranormal is a very niche thing that's, you either believe in it or you don't, and a lot of people that don't believe in it like to shred you to pieces for believing in it and call you an outcast and this and that, but at the end of the day, I'm happy with my life, I'm happy with what I do, and I enjoy this more than anything. So
nice.
Shrug them off.
Absolutely.
Shrug them off.
Absolutely. Do you believe that skepticism is necessary in paranormal research? Do you think it's healthy to have kind of not necessarily doubting, but kind of be skeptical about things that you're encountering?
Oh, absolutely. With things you're encountering, but also with evidence, because I pride myself, especially like whenever I investigate with Robin and Caleb, we do a whole like little analysis where we're like, you know, is there anything else? Like if we get a knock, okay, let's walk here and see if the floorboards move. Let's see if there's anything outside. Let's see if there's this. Let's see if there's that. Same thing with any piece of evidence ever. And like the more that I can debunk it, and it's like, obviously, it's like you get something really cool that happens and you want it to be real, and it's like, I don't want to debunk this, but you have to, because how can you, and I mean, then again, one could say that you never 100% know if anything you ever got is evidence, but debunking said piece of evidence as much as you possibly can and dwindling it down into there's no logical explanation as to how I got what I did, I feel like that solidifies it more as credible evidence.
Okay, so what standard do you use before you call something or label it authentic?
Like I said, I try to debunk it as much as possible, especially with equipment. Trying to just debunk it as much, because when you know, did something, you know, did the wind do this, or was there a light over here, or is there another device triggering this device, when you shrink it down to there's no logical explanation as to what could have like caused the evidence, or you know, how you got the evidence you did, then I'm like, I feel like that would solidify it more as credible evidence. But if it's physical things as to how you're affected, because I feel like sometimes people, there's experiences and physical experiences, and then there's evidence, and I'm like, I think that being affected and like being touched, being scratched, seeing things, I feel like that's also evidence. And I think people are like, evidence has to be something that was recorded and you can watch it and it like it's visible, like you could show people. And I don't think that's always the case, because I think that the figures that I've seen are evidence, especially like the Monroe incident that I talked about. Nobody touched me. No living person touched me. No animal touched me. The wind didn't do that. And like, I would label that as evidence. And some people are like, well, I wasn't there, I didn't see it, where's the proof? And right. I'm like, there's no logical explanation for as to why that happened to me, or as to how I saw, I saw this figure. There's no furniture putting a shadow. There's no light outside casting it. It's not mine. I don't know what it is. So I think that once you dwindle it down into no logical or scientific explanation, it solidifies it more as evidence.
Agreed. So let's talk about the part that people are afraid to say out loud. You've encountered the scratching. Besides that incident with the scratching, have you encountered something that you have classified as purely malevolent, something that you feel is pure evil? Not necessarily a spirit that's confused or just grasping, but something that is intending to do evil.
I tread very lightly with evil and like demons and things like that. Personally, yes, I've been scratched and, physically harmed at Madison, but I don't think that anything there's evil. And at least the place that I've gone, I wouldn't label anything evil. There's been places where it's definitely like I feel heavily unwelcomed, but I wouldn't label that as evil. I was at Stark Saloon in Rosedale, Indiana, and there was a old, I'm trying to remember what the word was. I believe brothel upstairs. And I felt very uneasy knowing, how women were treated in there, very unwelcomed. And I recently went to the Warren Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut, and being in the museum, especially around the Annabelle doll and everything in there, I feel like I'm being preyed upon for something bigger to happen, but I didn't feel like there was anything truly and I'm not saying that anything at the Warrens isn't evil, or it is, but at least my experience, I didn't personally feel like I've come across anything that's like truly evil.
Okay.
I do have a little theory though, and I'm not saying that demons are or aren't real, but I think that demons are often misinterpreted as like a not good spirit, because I think that if you were a negative person in your life and like your time on earth, like if you were, say, a criminal or a murderer or a mean old man or things like that, I think that how you were in your time, living on earth could be carried on to how you are in your time afterlife, or like the residual energy. And I feel like sometimes people misinterpret that as this negative spirit is, a negative spirit, so it has to be a demon.
I see. So, do you believe that some doors should never be opened?
Yes. I think that, and again, I'm not slandering anybody that does. Personally, I would never, if there's a demonic entity, it's like this known demon that has like physically harmed or things like that, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, who knows? In the future, maybe I'll go somewhere like that and I will try to investigate. Personally, I don't think that I would ever open that door. And I've seen people, trying to communicate with like the devil himself, and I applaud them for being brave and trying this and whatever, but my one question is, how do you know that that's actually who you're talking to? And I don't think that I, at least not right now, would ever intentionally try to open up something that is so negative to where like I can't control it.
Okay, fair enough. So let's do a rapid fire round, all right? Quick answers,
okay.
If you would.
All right.
Demonic or residual?
Residual.
Ouija boards, are they tools or traps?
Kind of a trick question. I feel like they can't be tools. How they're publicized primarily, I feel like can put them as a trap. But I would say that they're a tool.
Most haunted location out of all the ones you've been to, what's the most?
Top three-way tie: Indiana State Sanatorium, Madison Seminary, and the Warren Occult Museum.
In one word, describe the unknown.
Intriguing.
So, Olivia, people are watching who are inspired by you. What advice would you give to young investigators just starting out?
If you want to be a paranormal investigator, if you want to go on an investigation, if you want to, publicly share your love for this, do it. Don't be worried about who's going to judge you, because if I'm going to be honest here, people are going to judge you. It's inevitable. People are going to be skeptics of you. People are going to criticize you. But I think that it's a really cool experience to have that and still be able to grow despite that, because it's kind of like a, ha, you don't believe in me, you don't like what I do, but guess what? I'm doing it anyways. And especially the group of people that, I surrounded myself with when I first got into this. I don't have any friends in the paranormal that are my age. My closest friend is probably 3 or 4 years older than me. Like I said, I'm 20, about to be 21. And there's not a whole, there is a good amount of younger people in this, but I've always kind of been like the baby of the friend groups, or the people that I'm around, or like at the conventions. And at first it was a bit intimidating, but I'm like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and build the connections with people. If you want to go on an investigation, do it. I started doing this at 17 and 18 years old. And here I am at only 20, and I am so glad that I got into this at the age that I did, because I'm like, I found the thing that makes me the happiest in life, the thing that I'm most intrigued by, the thing that, I do the most and I love the most, and I'm so passionate about. Like, I get to do that all the time at 20, because I started doing this when I was 17 and 18, and I've kind of built this life for myself at such a young age. And like, I love doing this, and it gives me so much more time in my lifespan to just be able to do this. And so I'm just like, if you want to do this, just do it. Push yourself out. It's intimidating. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be okay with knowing that people are going to judge you and criticize you. But at the end of the day, it helps you grow, and it helps build you as a person. And you're going to be so much more happier doing what you love, as opposed to sitting there wishing, I wish I could do this. I wish I would have done this. Just do it.
Nice. And Olivia, where can people find you?
So I am on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook as Olivia Spooky Lens. I am on there, and then I also do a podcast and sometimes investigation videos with Bravin and Caleb, who I've mentioned in this episode. And our thing there is called Shadow Sessions Paranormal, which is on YouTube and Spotify.
Very nice. Olivia, thank you for coming on tonight and having a real conversation about this world. Because,
of course, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. So the paranormal isn't entertainment. It's not a filter. It's not a trend. For some of us, it's lived experience. And everyone listening, until next time, stay safe, be aware, and beware, because sometimes the silence is the most terrifying thing.
You've just heard another chilling chapter of the Unholy Podcast, hosted by Doug Owen, author, investigator, and witness to the things most feared to name. For more real stories, cursed objects, and exclusive content, step deeper into the dark at authorDougOwen.com. Subscribe, share, and remember, some silences aren't empty, they're waiting. In the shadowy corners of the supernatural, one name stands out: Doug Owen. His gripping memoir, The Unholy Silence, has now arrived on Audible and a multitude of other audiobook platforms. Dive into a true story that intertwines family, financial betrayal, and a haunted house with a dark, escalating presence. Doug Owen also brings you the Unholy Podcast, where he delves into the paranormal, exploring the eerie and the unexplained. Whether you're a seasoned fan of the supernatural or new to the genre, The Unholy Silence promises to keep you on the edge of your seat. Available now wherever audiobooks are sold. Get ready to experience the chilling and the mysterious, because the silence is unholy and the story is unforgettable. Visit author DougOwen.com today to purchase and learn more. That's author DougOwen.com. Doug Owen's The Unholy Silence offers a gripping exploration of his year-long experience in a haunted house. This personal account details terrifying encounters with dark entities, including a chilling mimicry of his daughter by a malevolent force. Owen's narrative goes beyond mere ghost stories, delving into the psychological toll of living with the paranormal. Readers are invited to confront the unexplainable and question the boundaries of reality. With a background in paranormal research and a commitment to uncovering hidden truths, Owen's work resonates with those intrigued by the supernatural. His dedication to sharing these unsettling experiences not only informs, but inspires a deeper reflection on the mysteries surrounding us. The Unholy Silence is a must-read for anyone fascinated by real-life horror and the complexities of existence. Join Doug Owen on this haunting journey that challenges perceptions and awakens curiosity about the unseen world. Order your copy of Doug Owen's The Unholy Silence today, available on Amazon, Lulu, and wherever books are sold.